Howdy everyone. I continue to fit the canopy and the window, the rear window, just so I can try to get the seam between the two as nice as I can get it. And of course, it's not going to be perfect, and of course it is very, very tedious because you're dealing with two different pieces, and each of them at the moment are free to roam, so to speak. And it's very difficult to get a nice continuous perfect straight line on both pieces, but I'm working it and it's getting close. So you can see how everything fits just with it laying, like I said, everything is just laying loose, nothing is attached anywhere. You can see how the main canopy comes across the rail and it does not touch. Like I said, I'm leaving room between the aluminum angle and the plexiglass, so the canopy comes across behind the skin. The window also fits behind the skin over top of that aluminum angle. The rear window obviously is underneath the skin all the way around. It's on the roll bar. Canopy is on the roll bar. And again, looking at my reference lines, the center lines are lined up on the canopy front, the canopy back with the mark on the rear window. Those are lined up with the mark on the roll bar, and then it's lined up here at the back. So again, that center reference line is being maintained. The fit is okay around the roll bar. Both the canopy and the rear window sit high across the middle area here. The rest of it is really nice. The canopy sits really well all the way around, and the window sits really well all the way around, other than this middle area here, which I don't think is that big of a deal. I guess if I wanted to, I could shim that, but I don't think I will. I think I'll just draw it down with the screws when I get to that point. This side of the canopy fits really nice. I like the transition through here. This curve area through this support structure is really nice. It takes very little effort to pull this in here. So screws in here will draw this in nice. I don't think there's enough stress on here to be an issue. But for some reason, this side is not as nice. There's a pretty good bow in the plastic right through here. And there's really nothing I can do about that. It starts like back here, and it's all the way up through here. It's kind of a bulge. Back here, of course, it sits nice. This won't take a whole lot to draw that in that little bit. But as you get up front here, this sticks out more and more, and you can see how far I have to push this in to get it to mate with the frame. So I'm still working it. I've been working this corner right here. This skin has been interfering with the plexiglass, but even when I work with that, this doesn't change enough to allow this to be drawn in. It's just the way that the canopy is shaped. There's a little bit more it just bulges out ever so slightly more right here in this area. So other than that, I'm very happy with it. You can see the fit through here is really nice. There's a little bit of a gap in here. You can see that when I do this. A little bit of a gap there. This is all really nice. Through here, there's a little bit of a gap here. Get the glare out of the way. You can maybe see that. And then through here is really nice, and there's really no gap on this side, maybe just a little bit. The rest of it is really nice. You can see my reference lines that I've been using just to take measurements along these different points from my reference line to the edge of the canopy. just so I can keep both sides somewhat somewhat symmetrical here. That's what those reference lines are for. I can take those off now. So that's it. So like I said, I'm going to continue to work on this seam. I'm not really sure how much I want to do with it because, like I said, you've got two components. It's very difficult to maintain a perfectly straight line when you're sanding. The biggest gap that I have is probably right here. That looks to be about 1/8 of an inch. Right here. It may not be quite that much, but that's probably the biggest gap. And I've got a couple of those. I got this one right here. There's another one here. And then as you go across the top, there's another gap here. So like I said, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend chasing these down because there are going to be seals. The rear window I plan on sealing to the roll bar. And then the canopy itself, I plan on having some kind of a seal attached to it potentially, or at least attached to the roll bar where the canopy comes down, so it will rest on that seal. So it's basically cosmetic. You can see that there's a gap all through this entire length here. Now it touches down here, so I can't just grab the window and bring it forward. I would have to clean this edge off a little bit here to give clearance for the whole thing to move forward. So I'm still working it. I'm not giving up, obviously. Still have to work it. I'm going to try to work the window as best I can to my reference line. At that point, I think I'm going to attach this window in place, so at least that variable will be taken out of the equation. Then I can fit the canopy to this stationary edge, but I'm not there yet. So just wanted to give you a little overview of where I am in this canopy endeavor. I am very pleased with it. It is coming out really, really nice, and I think a lot of it has to do with how much attention to detail that I tried to stick to when I was building the frame. So again, a lot of compound curves, a lot of movement, a lot of flexibility. You just have to, like we did with the frame, you just have to stick with it and keep playing with it and keep creeping up on it a little at a time, and you'll get there. So I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to work at it a little bit and see if I can't get that gap closed up. And we'll see what comes next. All right, I will talk to you guys later. Howdy, everyone. Well, what you see before you now is pretty much the finished product between the canopy and the rear window as far as cutting, trimming, fitting, sanding, and making a big mess. So I am done with all of that. Of course, I still have holes to drill in both pieces, and I have side skins to fit across the canopy. I still have work to do on the canopy skin to get the whole thing to open. But as far as cutting, sanding, filing, I am done. And I am actually very pleased with how this turned out. I think the grid or some kind of stationary measuring points so that you can get it symmetric helps. I honestly believe that at the very beginning, letting the canopy sit on the fuselage and kind of moving it around to let it kind of take a natural set, I think that helped a lot. And of course, everything else is just tedious. You just sneak up on it a little at a time. So I have the rear window and the main canopy finished, and you can see maybe it's going to be hard to tell because I've got different colored tapes. I've got plastic on both of them still. You can still see a little bit of black marker where I had made some marks, so it might be hard to tell, but This seam between the two is good. It's not perfect. You know, I can fit my fingernail in it here. Up here I cannot. All the way across here I cannot. In here I can fit my finger. There's a pretty good sized gap here. It's probably at least a 1/16 in this area here. And then it closes back up tight-ish through here. So it's not perfect, but I'm very happy with it. Like I said, I don't want to start splitting hairs. I don't want to start chasing these little inconsistencies because I can do that for the next few weeks. And quite frankly, I don't want to. And I don't think it's necessary because for me personally, I'm going to put a strip over top of this to cover the gap. It's going to be aluminum. I'm going to attach it, mechanically attach it to the canopy, so it will be part of the canopy as it opens and closes, and then it will just come down and lay over the rear window. So the gap I'm not freaking out over. You can see potentially through here it's tight, and then it opens up to about a 1/16 or more in through here. Then it gets tight again all the way down. In this very corner, you can see where a gap opens up here. But that's it. Like I said, not going to freak out over it. The fit of the window to the fuselage everywhere else is really nice all the way around. It's a very tight fit, sliding the rear window underneath this skin. That is pretty tight. That's one thing I wanted to film and I didn't. But my canopy is inconsistently thick. I noticed that when I made this cut, and I noticed it on one of the sides, I believe, or maybe it was on the back side of the window, but it's very obvious that on, I don't know which side, but let's just say this side of the canopy where I had made the cut is quite a bit thinner than like across the top. I mean, the top is quite thick through this area here. And then when you come down around the sides, it gets pretty thin. And I noticed that I think on the rear window too, it was almost like this side here, the canopy or the window was very thin. And on the other side, in the same general location, it was a lot fatter. Now, it's possible that it could be done on purpose. For whatever reason, it needs to be thicker up here. I don't know, but it just seemed to be odd. And that's part of the problem back here. This window in this middle area seems to be quite a bit thicker than it is along these other edges. Quite a bit. I mean, it's noticeably thicker by the naked eye. So again, don't know if that's on purpose, but the fit in here is quite tight. Everywhere else, it's a non-event. Again, this side fits nice. Very little movement to get it to hook up with the metal side rail. My reference lines all line up really nice, front to back. This side here, I still need to figure out what to do because you still need quite a bit of pressure to bring that all the way in. One thing that I might do is the side rail in this area, I might actually bring it out a little bit. I think when I was doing that rolling curve through here that I maybe came back too far and rolled it in too much. So I might take some of that out. If I don't want to bring the canopy over to the metal, maybe I'll bring the metal out to the canopy. Reference line up front is good. My reference lines across the back are good. Again, the canopy center line matches with the center line on the roll bar. The window center line matches with the center line on the roll bar. And the two center lines between the two plastic pieces line up with each other. And then, of course, that carries down to my reference line here. So this is done. And I keep forgetting to film my edges. But my edges, like I said, I've taken all the edges down with 600 grit sandpaper, and they're like glass, no pun intended, but I think that's required if you want to absolutely minimize the chances of cracking. You want your edges to be perfectly smooth. Again, They're not exactly perfect, especially the sides, because I knew they were going to be covered up. But when you run your finger across the side, you can feel little anomalies. They're perfectly smooth and clean. It's just, when you cut by hand, you get that waviness. You can see it between the canopy and the rear window. Although when you rub your hand along each of these individually, you can't feel anything. It feels perfectly straight on both pieces. But when you have them up against each other, that little bit of waviness becomes obvious when you look at it. Again, I am not going to be concerned with it. So that's it. That is done. I'm going to move on to whatever's next. I think I have to move the rear window out. I have to make sure that this is where it needs to be, and then I have to clamp the internal frame. I have to make sure that that is clamped to the canopy around the back edge nice and tight, and then I could match drill that that plate that connects the two pieces together at the top. I think that's next. And then after that, I think I can start laying out hole patterns for all my nuts and bolts to attach everything. So I'll move on to whatever it is that comes next, and I will talk to you guys later.